Whoa. Wow. It's about 68 degrees in this place, and I'm getting what they used to call back in the olden days a bit chilly. Look at all this snow on the banks. And look above. All the stars bright in the sky with snow falling down gracefully. As if there's no time or day or no schedule, it falls, but just when it feels like it. It's almost September, which means it's Christmas time. And to really make sure that my wishes for what I want for Christmas get up on Santa's roster before anyone else, because there are no pre-registration lists for Santa's list. There's no pre-debut on Ticketmaster.com. You get your list in as early as possible to make sure you're at the top. And as September rolls around, it's time to utilize those opportunities and just put out there what I want for Christmas right now.
Oh, but Aisha, it's not even Halloween yet. It's not even spooky time.
Well, okay, in the motherland, in my motherland home country, people are already putting the lights out and constructing structures of Jesus Christ using bamboo sticks. So excuse me, if anything, I am behind on schedule. I should have started this months ago. This is a late project for me. My Amazon wish list should have been up and running 4 weeks ago. I should have started even thinking about what I wanted last March. In no particular order, but also take that statement with a grain of salt. One of the first things I'd like to have is a breast pump for Kent Clark. What's amazing about the human brain and what you're about to see and hear for the next 5 minutes is me consistently getting confused on whether Superman's name is Clark Kent or Kent Clark. But in the back of my head, I know his name is Clark and not Kent, because I say Clark like 3 minutes in. But three times in a row, without any stutter, any hesitation, I say Kent Clark. It's like watching an experiment. Like, I'm clearly there mentally, but also my mouth talks before my brain processes the thought. It's incredible that I even remembered that he was Superman in the first place. Now, let's look at some images of Kent Clark in his current state as of 2023. All right, this is animated Kent Clark Superman. Very fine fellow. Looks like he's got everything together, except a good sustaining t-shirt. And you want to know why? Because he is busting at the seams. His pectorals just kind of rip apart that Macy's button-up t-shirt he got on a discount sale last Black Friday for his internship, and this is what he has to deal with. There are not many solutions on how to prevent this issue, just because we don't want to change anything about Kent Clark, right? We don't want to change. There's no good in change. Why try to alter the appearance of someone just so they can fit clothes? It's not ethical, it's not responsible, and it's not body positive. So for us to ask Clark, hey, tone it down with the exercises, it would just be, it's not an appropriate ask. And also, what place do we have, right, to even suggest the alteration of his workout routine? The only thing that he's hurting with this accessory that he's developed for himself is the fabric that he wears that just cannot hold it in. Because men's button-downs, the difference between those and like the ones you find on Amazon for women aren't just the hip size, but also the freedom within this area, the chest area. He's got the body mass and the build of a typical masculine presenting individual, but he's got the work up here of a stereotypical Tumblr woman with a string bikini. So the reason that I ask for a breast pump for Clark Kent for Christmas is because though we love him and we love what he's got, right? That can't be comfortable. Like, when a person is fully milked up and it's like it's been a night of sleep and they wake up and the girls are as hard as rocks and it hurts and it's sore and it's painful and they take a breast pump and just, put those in some bottles and stick them in the freezer. A little coffee creamer for the partner here and there. Well, I think this would be a great tool for Clark because there's no way that is a comfortable situation to be in, especially when he's doing all that action. So he needs to pump. He's in pain. He's hurting. And if we can't get a pump to him soon, I'm just gonna have to go in there myself with a straw and just do mouth to nip or something. CPR. If I don't know, put a pin in there and just let it flat like a water balloon. This has been cut down to a certain extent, but from the video time footage that I'm seeing right now, I've been talking about Clark Kent needing a breast pump for 10 minutes and 27 seconds. And I have been nervous and overthinking for the past 2 days whether I make good YouTube videos or not, and if I could even talk about a subject long enough to keep people in. On my end, it's almost 11 minutes. Another thing I'd like for Christmas is a number 42 short hair cat LPS. It looks like this, but I want this LPS not because it's ugly, but because it has hair. In my head, when they started putting hair on LPS, I like to imagine that they were trying to dip into the market of dolls, They were trying to get the people who buy dolls regularly into the LPS universe. So they started putting hair on LPS. And I just love this very slight tiny run of a Barbie doll crossover with LPS where they gave them actual physical Barbie hair that you could braid and whirl around. It's I don't know if I've actually announced this, but I have some big news. I, like Taylor Swift, have decided. Can I give you a little backstory? A couple years ago, my mom threw out my batch of LPS that I collected growing up. I don't remember giving her the consent to throw it in the back seat, drive to Goodwill, dump it into a bin, come back, and not tell me for the next 2 years until I randomly asked where my collection was. But to reclaim my happiness, to have some sort of evidence that I was a kid too, I have decided to recollect a good majority of Littlest Pet Shops that I had and that I wanted growing up. These are the two that I have recollected. I just got them in the mail. They're my favorite, and I think the short cat LPS with the human hair is the third on my personal roster. I'd also like a CD, Blu-ray edition of the movie Meg 2. Now Meg 2 came out recently, I think about a month or two ago. And the reason I want it is because the timing as to how and when that movie came out is very ironic to the situation of the Titanic submersible story. I have a theory that the submersible story somehow intertwined and somehow got mixed up in the release of Meg 2, and Meg 2 postponed the release to a little bit later after the news settled of the submersible, because the parallels are interesting. Meg 2. Bunch of people are in the middle of the ocean. They want to look at some big sharks. They want to look at some Megs. You want to know what Meg 1 was about? One shark. And Meg 2, many shark. There's more sharks. So it's not even like Meg and the return of Meg, but Meg and his friends. Meg and her acquaintances. The they, them of Meg and their co-workers. Yeah, so basically two teams of people get into submarines and they go down to the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean and they find a bunch of other Megs, big fish, big sharks, and they get into a fight with the sharks at the bottom of the ocean. And they're thrashing around and both the submersibles get broken. And so they both lose contact with any above networks that had any connection and radio signal to them. So the people above don't even know if they're alive. But don't worry, because we have Jason Statham on the ship. We have Jason Statham here to help everyone in the first and second submersible to get out of there. If you don't know who Jason Statham is, he is the Australian Sylvester Stallone. He is the guy who, like, in the most impossible situation, somehow manages to get out. You know the trope in movies where a white man visits a foreign country. He goes to a specific location where there's a rumored creature, and he awakens it and saves the indigenous people of the land from the mythical creature, though the indigenous people specifically never awoken that creature because they knew of the things that it would do if it were awoken. And then here comes the white man from, like, San Francisco going, you know what, I'm gonna do a little dance and get my machine gun and go, you know? Well, that's Jason Statham. Anyway, so Jason Statham looks around, he says, okay, we have no contact with the above air, so what are we gonna do? I don't know. He says, you know what? We're gonna get our emergency pod. We're gonna summon an emergency pod because we finally got a signal from above. Now they're gonna send it down and rescue us. Well, the emergency pod is broken. So there's literally no way humanly possible that anyone from the above surface can get down to them. Sounds kind of familiar. Sounds a little bit like a story that came out a couple months ago of a smaller submersible with fewer people, but instead it's not shot in a movie, but shot IRL. And so Jason Statham, he says, okay, so that's not gonna work. What else? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna get out of here? There's no hope. Don't worry. I'm Jason fucking Statham. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put on some spacesuits, and we're gonna walk. We're gonna walk from the bottom of the ocean all along the seafloor and all the way up to the surface. We're just gonna casually do that with about 2 hours of air left in each of the suits that can breathe underwater. So him and his team, they all are like, okay, well, it's Jason Statham, and he's survived every single action movie he's ever been in, so who are we to accuse or judge his absurd suggestions? So everyone gets in a suit, and they all walk along the floor, and like 80% of the team dies. But guess who doesn't die? Jason Statham. So I want a Meg 2 CD to always remind myself that the white man will always come out of a dangerous situation, and is a warning that if a group of white people go, Asia, let's go camping. Asia, let's go in a haunted house. Asia, let's go skydiving. Asia, let's go cave crawling and have the earth pressed between our chest and back and go into the caves and definitely not end up in a nutty putty situation with our legs in the air and the whole of America watching as we make this mistake. And guess who's gonna get out? All those white people, but I will be at the bottom of the cave suffering and breathing in spiders. I would also like a shotgun or any sort of weapon that protrudes a bullet when I press the trigger. I don't care what kind, I don't care the price, I don't care if I have to like haul it onto like the front of my shoulder and it like jerks my body backwards. If it's a handheld gun, I want a weapon. I want to be licensed. It is a safety precaution as a woman. Also, I think the idea of like, I don't know, if someone broke in, right, and they had a gun, and I also had a gun, we are now at equal level. But if I'm left vulnerable in my bed going, wait, no, don't shoot, but if I'm like, wait, no, don't shoot, and there's a gun underneath my pillow, and I go, wait, don't shoot yet, we have some things to talk about. First of all, how did you get in my house? Second of all, what is your name and your occupation, and do you have a business card? Because I'm gonna have to call in sick for you tomorrow morning because you won't be able to wake up from the bullet that I put in your head for coming into my house. I'd also like a lumbar support strap for my chair. My body is aging 300 times the speed that it should be. My back hurts, my knees hurt, my hips hurt. I'm aching. I'm like this, like every time I drive to the parking lot and I see the handicapped like parking spot, I'm like, you know, at this point, I am in need of a lumbar support strap from good old Jeff Bezos' Amazon site. I already have an IKEA footrest, so my knees are in line with my hips. All I need now is a good lumbar support and something underneath my ass so my bony butt does not impale and stick through the foam chair that I got off of Jeff Bezos' Amazon. I also need American Airlines to let me bring on my lumbar support strap. You know what they emphasize? Do you know what airplane seats emphasize out of every single support? The neck. And it's the most uncomfortable seat in the world. Like I step into a car and I'm like, this is wonderful. No wonder people go road tripping. And then I step onto American Airlines and I'm like, no wonder people jump off the plane, because this is torture. Like, I think it might just be me. I don't see anyone else absolutely struggling and trying to find a comfortable spot with those neck rests. It's either too high or too low. And I feel like there is no back support, as if it's not as equally important when it comes to the support of the spine. You want to know what the center of your entire being is? Your spine. So why are we emphasizing the neck? You know what's connected to the neck? The spine. I feel very passionate about my lumbar support needs. I don't understand the issue. I would also like a Korean utensil set. I have emphasized and gone on long tangents about my fascination with Korean spoons and forks and knives. So, with an average American spoon and fork, you've got a short handle, right? You've got a short handle. It's kind of where your hand meets. Only a few little centimeters away is where the meat of the meal will be. We're hanging at the tips. But with a Korean utensil, with a Korean fork, it is like you are wielding a sword. It's kind of like, oh, you're at family dinner, you want the potatoes on the other side of the table. So you have to stand up, roll that one sleeve saying, excuse me, and you have to reach across the table, interrupt a conversation to get that hot plate of potatoes. But with a Korean spoon, with a Korean fork, you don't got to do that. You just take it by the end and you slip your way through that dining table and you pierce a potato wedge and you put it on your plate and everything's fine. Last on the wants for what I want for Christmas, I would like health insurance. I would love me some good, God, what is it called? I would love me a good Aetna plan, something to set me up, a little bit of support, because who knows if I'm driving down the freeway and I'm going over to Glendale and something happens and I break a leg. I've always thought the idea of amputation would be a little haha, yeah, what if, but if I've got no health insurance, my what ifs is starting to turn into a scary reality of not what if, but when. Santa, if you're watching, I hope you wrote everything down. And you don't even have to check if I'm naughty or if I'm nice, because I put myself where I needed to be. And I would like my requested items by the end of December. And if not, things are not going to look good for you or your little reindeer either.